نحمده ونصلي ونسلم على رسوله الكريم. أما بعد، رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Welcome everyone back to our maktab sessions. First of all, we give our apologies for yesterday's session. We had a lot of technical difficulties. The audio wasn't being picked up, and we do apologize for that. Inshallah, today our intention is to redo yesterday's class so that no student will have missed out on the progress that we had done. And inshallah, from there, tomorrow we will continue with new work, inshallah. So one of the things that we had mentioned yesterday, the fact that this session and these sessions are a continuation of the maktab sessions that we were holding in the week to 2 weeks prior to the month of Ramadan beginning. We had mentioned the fact that, while the children are at home, while everyone's at home, there is still a great need for everyone to connect with their knowledge of Islam. It's still a great need for everyone to take advantage of the time that we have. And so these sessions have been introduced for that same purpose, the purpose that all who are at home, all who are able to attend, and they may gain some benefit, inshallah. And the benefit of having sessions, even in the month of Ramadan, inshallah, Allah will grant us the reward as if we were doing these sessions for a very, very long period of time. So we first of all begin with our Islamic studies, rather our Quran and Qaida reading. Yesterday, as we will do today as well, we recap essentially where we reached in terms of the Qaida work. We started off in our sessions talking about the Arabic alphabet, the fact that the Arabic alphabet itself has 29 letters, and one of the things that we really reiterated when we were doing these sessions is the fact that in the Arabic alphabet, there are many letters that have the same shape. What is different between those shapes are the dots that the letters have and their positions. And if we were able to remember those two factors, the shape of the letter as well as the number of dots on their positions, then we would be able to learn the letters and to move forward in recognizing them. We really try to nail home the fact that our letters are our foundation of reading. If our letters are weak, then all of the rest of the reading is going to be weak. So for us to be strong reciters of the Quran, and we need to be strong knowers of the letters and strong masters of the Arabic letters. After that, we would have done a little bit of practice with the alphabet itself, looking at the different ways that the letters themselves can be written as their separate form. And following that, we started talking about the ways that letters can be joined. In essence, we mentioned the fact that Letters, just like in English, when we join to form words, the letters themselves can join in a cursive manner if we're writing cursively. So too in Arabic, letters themselves join when we actually form words, right? And the way that a letter looks based on its position of a word is slightly different. The example that is seen on the screen right now, we've got the letter ba. And this letter ba itself is being shown on its own in the beginning of a word, in the middle of a word, and in the ending of a word. And we see that the letter ba itself, if we look at that same position when applied to an actual example of a word, it's going to look a little bit different, right? It's not going to look just the same way as the ba does on its own. However, we draw reference to the fact that there is a base shape of the letter ba that is unchanging, and the fact that ba has one dot below the letter is also unchanging. So if we were to remember the shape of the letter and the fact that ba has one dot below it, then we are going to be able to recognize the letter ba no matter where it is inside of a word. And that is essentially what our goal is with regards to the letters, with regards to um, our checking of them. So we had made that discussion, and following that, we looked at the ways that we could group letters that join in a similar manners. So essentially, what we looked at is the fact that we have families of letters. We can group letters based on the way that they similarly join. We said that there's ba, ta, tha, nun, and ya that form the both families. And what we mean by the boat family is that ba, ta, tha forms a little boat that, you can imagine someone is inside of and is just paddling along, yeah? And what we mentioned is the fact that when these letters join, their beginning and their middle forms are all the same, right? So we have the beginning and middle forms for ba, the beginning and middle forms for ta, tha, and also their cousins, Noon and Ya. And what the difference is here is the number of dots and their positions. Because for all of them, if the shape of the letter is the same, then what we need to look at is the dots and their positions to recognize what the letter is. So Ba being one dot below, Ta two dots on top, Tha three dots on top, Noon one dot on top, Ya two dots below. So moving forward, we do need to recognize the shape of the letters and we need to look very carefully to the number of dots. But if we can learn letters in this way, then we are going to be able to group them very, very easily. And grouping them very easily allows us to learn the letters faster, allows us to become stronger reciters as well, inshallah. The next thing that we had mentioned is the fact that we have certain letters that are non-joiners. They don't like to be with anybody else. They like to be on their own. And those letters would have included alif, dal, zal, ra, za, and waw. Now, what we notice with these letters is that they don't like to join in the beginning or the middle forms. Rather, they are usually only on their own or at the end of words. And this makes it easy for us to remember these letters because there are only two forms for each of them. And the two forms look very, very similar, right? Aleph and the Aleph on end are similar. The Wow and Wow on end are similar. So it cuts down on the work that we actually need to learn to be able to master these letters when they are joined. Then we mentioned the fact that there are C-tail family, a family of letters that, they have a tail, right? So the top part of the letter, and then there's a tail in the form of a C, right? That tail part. Um, so we recognize the fact that generally speaking, when these letters join, they lose or cut off that part of their tail. And as always, they maintain their dots and their positions. So we are able to recognize Jim, Ha, and Kha from the dots that they have and the position of those dots. Then after that, we looked at the needle eye family. We mentioned that if we looked through the eye of a sewing needle, it looks very similar to this shape here that we see all of these letters have. The letters Tor, Thor, Sword, and Dawn. And what we notice is that Tor and Thor have an antenna, and Sword and Dawn have a tail, right? So we use those features to distinguish between Tor, Thor, Sword, and Dawn, and then we use the dots to distinguish between both pairs of letters, right? After that, we looked at the letters Seen and Sheen, and we mentioned that Seen and Sheen are the family of letters that have three strokes, essentially one, two, and three strokes, right? And then no matter whether the letter has a tail or not is based on its position in the word. But as long as we see those three strokes, we know that it's going to be seen or sheen. As opposed to if you only see one stroke, and we just remembered that the first family we did was the boat family. So three strokes in the boat family. All right. We're understanding that difference because this is a whole different family of letters, and this is either seen or if it has dots, sheen. Then we mentioned the fact that we have the letters fa and kof, and fa and kof are letters that have loops to begin. They have loops on their heads, right? Fa has one dot, kof has two dots. And then lastly, we have the remainder of the families, which are letters that are not too difficult to learn, and there is no very really unique way of joining. And so they're just grouped as the remainder of the letters. All right. Okay. Good. And then the thing that we would have come up to in our sessions is the fact that there are many letters that students very commonly confuse. All right. These letters themselves, they look very different in some positions of a word and very similar in others. So while we are doing this, it's important to remember what is the difference between these letters so that we can very, very easily, whenever we read words, notice these differences and recite these letters correctly. So, for example, we looked at the letters Aleph and the letter Lam, right? Now, Aleph and Lam, they are letters which are commonly confused when you see this beginning form of Lam and the ending form of Aleph. It's very similar, right? We see that in one case we have a stroke and then going to the right, and in the case of the Aleph, it's a stroke and then going, the Aleph is going from the right and then Lam is going to the left. So, students, when they recite these, they might look at this example here and say meme aleph lam, which isn't correct, which is correct. But one, commonly confused time is people might say meme lam lam, for example. That is what the difference is, right? Noticing that this is aleph and this is lam, right? Understanding the difference between these two letters. And it's a matter of remembering that aleph doesn't like to join in the beginning, right? It doesn't like to join in the beginning or the middle. So it's not going to look like this. And lam on the end looks like a lamb. So if you see these letters on the end, then we're going to say this is not lamb because lamb on the end will look just like a lamb. So instead, this is the letter Aleph. Okay, so these are the some of the starting points of the commonly confused letters. And just to finish our recap of where we reached in our previous Maktab sessions and where we will be continuing on from tomorrow, inshallah, we looked at the fact that we have Ba, Noon, Fa, Goin, all of these letters, they are commonly confused. And we can easily point out where the confusion is. For Ba and Noon, we look at the beginning and the middle forms. And then we realize that the letter, because they are the same family, is the same, right? The shape of the letter is the same. What is being different is the dot. Now, both of these two letters have one dot. Ba has one dot below, Noon has one dot on top. And the common confusion for students is thinking that Noon is Ba and Ba is Noon. And that's a matter of remembering that Ba has one dot below and Noon has one dot on top. Then we look at the fact that we have the letter Noon in the middle form and the letter Fa in the middle form and the letter Coin in the middle form. The students commonly mix up all three of these letters. How? It's a matter of remembering that Noon has a stroke, Fa is a loop family, and Goin is that mushroom shape or that gem shape, right? Either one can work, right? It's a mushroom shape or a gem shape. If we remember those differing characteristics of the base shape of the letter, we are going to be able to understand the difference between all three of them, okay? And, following that, we notice that um, the letter Val and the letter Za, right? The letter Val on the end and the letter Za, these are also commonly confused for Noon, right? And what we mentioned here is the fact of Noon being a letter that is a straight stroke, right? And Zal being slightly bent, Za being a letter that is below the line. It doesn't sit on the line, but rather it starts on top and goes below. So we do need to remember that fact. We do need to pay attention to that. And if we do, then our making sure that we recite all of these letters correctly is going to be easy, inshallah. Okay. All right. So that will bring us to the end of this first session, inshallah, our Qaida practice. From tomorrow, inshallah, we are going to be looking at the continuing this commonly confused letters from Ha and Ain going on. I think our intention, inshallah, is going to be before the end of Ramadan, we should reach at least, around Shadda, which means that we're going to do the short vowels, we're going to do joining with Sukun, we're going to do Tanween, and we're going to do those in a different way that the Qaida actually does it. Um, a way that inshallah it will make for students to be having these exercises done easily. And inshallah from there, that will be a very good foundation so that after the month of Ramadan, it's only going to be a short period of time before a student is able to recite the Quran. That being said, nothing happens without practice and nothing happens without effort. So students themselves, but putting the time to, rewatch some of the videos that we've had, use some of the qaidas that they might have at home or they might see online so that they gain the practice of recognition, the practice of reciting as well, not just listening, not just seeing, but also their own recitation, inshallah. Okay. Okay, let's move on now, inshallah, to our Quran reading session. Now, in these sessions, we started from Surah An-Nas, which is the very last surah of the Quran, and we had come up all the way until Surah Al-Humazah, doing about 11 surahs. Surah Fil to Surah Nas, and we did Surah Al Asr as well. So what we're going to do today, inshallah, is half of Surah Al Humaza. The intention for these sessions as well is that we probably go up to about halfway in the last juz, and then after that we will probably finish off with Surah Al Mulk, and that will bring an end to our Ramadan sessions, inshallah. So our methodology of doing Suratul Humaza and doing our Quran recitation is a matter of following along with the recitation. And there are many students who already know some of the surahs that we are doing. Now, the benefit of doing these surahs and reciting along is that those students can make sure that everything that they're reciting is correct. And that's why we will point out some of the important, mistakes that students might make in these verses when we are doing them. And for those students who do not know the surahs, they are the starting point for learning the surahs. Being able to recite the surahs are the way that we start to learn how to memorize the surahs, inshallah. Okay, so whenever we get started with our recitation, then the first thing that we do need to do is to begin with the ta'awudh and the tasmiyah or the basmala. The ta'awudh is أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم, and then the tasmiyah بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Okay, so we are reciting after me. We're going to break up the verse into small parts, practice that, and then at the ending point, we're going to recite the whole verse all at once, inshallah. Okay, so after me. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ويل لكل ويل لكل همزة لمزة. همزة لمزة. Once more. ويل لكل همزة لمزة. Then finally, all at once, let's try to just do the whole verse. It's okay if you don't are unable to do it in the first try. It's okay if you make mistakes. Making mistakes is how we become better and how we become masters. All right. ويل لكل همزة لمزة. Very good. So importantly here, what we are going to point out is the fact that we have a couple of joinings here, right? Why lulli, lulli, kulli, kulli, umaza, tillu, tillumaza, all right? So it's important for us to remember those joinings. And then also in the end, we have a ha sound, a flat ha sound. It's not the airy ha, but a flat ha sound. So luma za, luma za. So we need to remember that way that the first verse ends, inshallah. Let's continue. الذي جمع الذي جمع مالا وعدده. مالا وعدده. Again. الذي جمع. مالا وعدده. Then lastly, let's recite the whole thing all at once. الذي جمع مالا وعدده. Good. So in this verse, really only two things to point out, or the three. First is that we've got a long vowel in the beginning, الذي. So we need to ensure that we recite that correctly. Then we have two eins in this verse. And remember, the way that we pronounce ein is a very forceful sound. Jama'a wa'addada, right? Jama'a wa'addada. Forcefulness in the actual sound of the letter. And we end off with da again, right? That flat ha is how it's going to finish almost all of the verses in the surah, right? Da. So remember those points, inshallah, when you're reciting this verse. Let's continue. يحسب أن. يحسب أن. ما له أخلده. ما له أخلده. Again. يحسب أن. ما له أخلده. And let's try to recite the whole thing, inshallah. يحسب أن ما له أخلده. So in this part of the surah, we have our first instance of the letter ha. Now remember, this is a very airy sound, ha. So we do need to ensure that when we recite this verse, we recite the ha in its correct pronunciation. Yahsabu, yahsabu, right? And then following that, we have anna ma lahu, ma lahu. Here, what we have to ensure is that we lengthen the ha to its correct pronunciation, inshallah. We need to make sure that we do that, because if we don't recite our ma lahu as long as it needs to be, then we will be making an error, inshallah. All right. And then lastly, we have the same way that we end akhlada. So we do want to make sure that we recite that to its correct nature as well, inshallah, remembering to end with akhlada, akhlada, right? Good. All right. So let's move on, inshallah. Um, we have the very last verse. We'll do one more line and then recite the entire of the surah. And that will bring us to the end, inshallah. All right. Good. Next verse. كلا لينبذن كلا لينبذن في الحطمة في الحطمة. Again. كلا لينبذن في الحطمة. Then one more time. Let's try to recite the whole verse. كلا لينبذن في الحطمة. Good. In this verse, what we really want to focus on is the ha and the to. Remember, ha, airy sound, and to is a very round sound, right? It's not flat as ta is, or has a full mouthed sound. So we want to ensure that when we recite the verse, we are going to utilize all of those aspects, inshallah. So to wrap up these four verses, inshallah, let's recite all of them, one verse at a time. Let's try to do that. Take your time. It's okay if you make any mistakes. It's the only important thing is that you try to recite it, inshallah. Okay. ويل لكل همزة لمزة الذي جمع مالا وعدده يحسب أن ماله أخلده كلا لينبذن في الحطمة. Okay, so very good, inshallah. Tomorrow, when we begin, we will recite these four verses one more time, and we will look to complete the surah tomorrow, inshallah. And the next day, we will move on to the surah after it, inshallah. So let's move on to our Islamic studies section, inshallah. Now, we have begun the month of Ramadan. Alhamdulillah, Allah has given us the ability to reach the month of Ramadan. He has blessed us in that way. There are so many people who intended to reach the month of Ramadan. Allah did not bless them to reach it. Just like that, every single year, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala returns whomsoever He wishes from this world. And those who intended to reach the month of Ramadan, they don't reach it. So Allah, being merciful and being our creator who has blessed us to reach the month of Ramadan, then we should give thanks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by making full use of the month. Now, Allah has created the month of Ramadan as the best of all months. In the same way that He has created Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam as the best of all prophets, and in the same way that He has sent the Quran down in the month of Ramadan as the best of all books. So the month of Ramadan is connected to the best of many things. And so that's why when we come to the month of Ramadan, we too should be the best that we can be. And we too should put our best foot forward in actually working towards attaining the most that we can from this month. Now, Ramadan is the ninth month of the Islamic calendar. It is it is a month that Allah it, it is a month that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made for a very specific reason though. And that reason Allah has mentioned to us in the Quran. In Surah Al-Baqarah, which is the second surah in the Quran, the first surah, I'll give all of you at home a little bit of a chance to guess. What's the first surah of the Quran? So if you answered Surah Fatiha, then you are correct, right? So Surah Fatiha is the first surah. Then after it is Surah Al-Baqarah. Now, Baqarah in Arabic means the cow. It's a very long surah with a wide range of topics. But inside of Surah Baqarah, Allah mentions that He has made fasting prescribed for all of us, as it was prescribed to different peoples of the past, so that we may attain taqwa. Now, it's very interesting that Allah uses the word prescribe, right? Now, Allah has, given us that order to do something, and He has told us what the outcome is. Now, we think about what is a prescription, right? So, if you are sick, then the doctor will give you a prescription, tell you to go to the pharmacy and get some medicine, and that medicine will have a certain outcome. So that if you were to take that medicine, then the outcome that the doctor tells you is what you will attain. So just like that, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us that He has prescribed fasting for us, then when we fast in the month of Ramadan, the outcome that He has mentioned should also be the outcome that we attain. And that outcome Allah has mentioned is that He has ordained fasting so that we may attain taqwa, right? Now, taqwa is the outcome that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is seeking for us to gain in the month of Ramadan. And there are very many definitions about taqwa. I'll give a very simple one today, inshallah. And that is if you are in school, we aren't able to be in school right now because of the current situation. But when we're in school and we're writing a test, then if we are writing a test in school, our teacher is watching us, and we know that everyone is focusing on doing the test. And so, because we know we are being watched by our teacher, because we know that this test is going for marks, then we are going to do the best we can. We're going to behave the best we can be. We're not going to speak out of turn. We're not going to, do what we want because we're writing a test. We will carry about ourselves in a way that is befitting that environment of writing a test and being under that testing exam conditions. So just like that, the way that we are during the test, is it the same way then we're just in class? Because generally speaking, if we're just in school and we're just in class, doesn't we might talk here and there, we might stand up, we might go outside. It's not the same as if we're writing the test. And just like that, taqwa is that awareness that Allah is watching me. That just like my teacher is watching me during a test, Allah is watching me, and Allah is watching me all my life, all the time. Allah is Al Alim, He is all aware. He is As Samir, He is all hearing. And He is Al Basir, He is all seeing. So if I know Allah is watching me all the time, then just like when I'm writing a test in school, the way I carry about myself has to be the best way possible. Because if Allah is watching me all the time, can I, be naughty? Can I say bad things? Can I do bad things? No, because Allah is watching me. And it is this that describes the aspect of taqwa, that you realize and recognize Allah being the one who is watching me all the time. And because Allah is watching me all the time, then I need to carry about myself in a certain way. I can't do all that I want to do. I need to do what Allah has told me to do, and I need to not do what Allah has prohibited me from doing. And this is taqwa. Just like in writing your test, if you, there was, you have to actually write the test. So just like that, if Allah told us to perform salah and we miss our salah, then we know Allah is watching us. And we have done something that Allah didn't want to do. Allah wanted us to perform our salah and we didn't do so. Or if we are writing a test and Allah doesn't want us to, stand up and look around, just like our teacher doesn't want us to stand up and look around, then we shouldn't say bad things to people because we know Allah doesn't want us to say bad things to people. How we carry about ourselves, therefore, is the aspect of taqwa. And now for the link. How does fasting and Ramadan help us gain taqwa? And that's a matter of our emotion and our feeling. When we are fasting, we are hungry, we are, thirsty, we can't do all that we want to do. And that teaches us that aspect that, wait a minute, I have to control myself. I have to understand that I'm feeling hungry and I'm feeling thirsty. And this should help me remember Allah. It should help me remember that I'm fasting because Allah has commanded me to fast, and doing this will please Him. That when I'm fasting, I have to take control of what I do, what I say, and that is because I want Allah to be pleased with me. And then after Ramadan is finished, we remember that aspect of Allah is watching me. Allah is the one who is checking to see how I'm doing. So I should do the right things and I should stay away from the wrong things. And when we build a connection like this to Allah, then doing good things becomes easy and doing wrong things becomes difficult. And we become better and better with every single passing day. And this is the, very important aspect of the month of Ramadan. Ramadan is not just for us to fast and perform salah and to gain rewards just for gaining rewards sake, but to gain rewards because we want Allah to be pleased with us. Because if Allah is pleased with us, if Allah is happy with us, then He will no doubt give us that which we desire. He will no doubt make things easy for us. He will no doubt grant us closeness to Him. And if we don't learn this in the month of Ramadan, then when will we learn it? When will we learn that Allah wants us to do certain things? Allah wants us to stay away from certain things because certain things are good for us and certain things are not good for us. Sometimes you might say, in Islam, some things are, is difficult because we can't do certain things and we have to do certain things. But people forget that Allah is your creator and my creator. Without a doubt, Allah created you and Allah created me. And Allah, being our creator, knows that which is good for you and knows that which is not good for you. And so there are some things that Allah has made fard, made compulsory for us to do because He knows it's good for us. And there are some things that Allah has made haram, prohibited, because He knows it is bad for us. And if we forget that, then we forget having the aspect of taqwa and we will not be able to move forward in the best way that we can. So, in the month of Ramadan, let's work on trying to remember Allah throughout the day. And the way to do that is to model our day around Islam, around why we are doing things. We are going to perform our salah because we know that it is fard. We are trying to, recite our du'as before we go to sleep, when we wake up, before we eat, after we eat. Throughout the day, we're using these du'as to remember Allah. We are when we are going to sleep, we are going to sleep with the intention that we want to rest so that we can wake up and do good deeds, that we perform our salah, We help out with the chores at home, with the preparations for iftar. We give assistance to who needs it. We tell our parents that we love them. We treat people kindly. All of this we are remembering. Allah is watching me, and if I do things in the best way possible, Allah will be happy with me, and Allah will be pleased with me. So, inshallah, let's work very hard in the month of Ramadan to try to attain this aspect of taqwa that comes when we exert ourselves, when we do our best. Let's try to fast as we can. Let's make that effort, inshallah. When we are at home, let's try to perform our salah, taraweeh, our fard salah in congregation with those who are at home. Let's try to remember Allah and work without a doubt to becoming the best individuals that we can be. So Allah will be pleased with us, inshallah. So that will bring us to the end of our sessions for today. Inshallah, we will continue for tomorrow, inshallah, with the continuation of all of these sessions. We have 3 sessions every single day: our Qaida practice, our Quran reading, and our Islamic studies. So, inshallah, feel free to tune in to the sessions that apply to you. And inshallah, let's work towards becoming the best that we can be. And for this month of Ramadan to be the month of Ramadan that we will look back and say that this was the Ramadan that changed my life, that make my life the best way that it could have been, inshallah. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.